Select Characters, where gaming meets analysis.
Hello and welcome to the 27th episode of the Select Characters podcast. My name is not Samuel Yates because Sam is at some convention with a family member this weekend. Enrique is also not here because he said something about getting really drunk yesterday for Halloween, and I think he's at work right now. So he'll just have to make do with me and the one and only Ryan Dildine. Hi, man.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going with you?
Busy. I really want to be out of college. Very bad.
Yeah, that hard?
Yep.
How long until you're done?
I graduate December something, so I got about 5 weeks.
Well, you can probably power through that, right?
I hope so. Senioritis is hitting me hard. Real hard. Real hard.
You'll figure it out. You'll figure it out, no doubt. So, today we've got a slightly more casual episode. I know that this has happened more over the past couple of weeks, but we do this in our spare time and sometimes life gets in the way and we'll just have to make do with less. But we'll, of course, as always, try to give you an entertaining show, and we'll just start off by talking about what we have been playing.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm just going to skip the whole "it's been a great week for video game" shtick because I'm not Sam Yates, so I can do whatever the hell I like. And I'm going to instantly talk about Star Wars The Old Republic, which I have been playing. Have you heard of that game, Ryan?
Yeah, I've never played it though. Not a second.
Well, there's never a better time to play that game than right now because of the new expansion and all the changes that the new expansion brought with it. For the people that don't know, The Old Republic is an MMO made by BioWare and published by EA. It went free to play about 2 or 3 years ago. I'm not entirely sure about that one.
Sounds right.
Mm-hmm. And I bought it on release and I really, really enjoyed it because of the heavy focus on personal narrative. Everything's voice acted and you have the illusion of player choice like you have in all the BioWare games. You can basically shape who your character is and you have some agency in which character lives and which character dies or how you're perceived. And I really, really enjoyed that. What I didn't enjoy was the subpar leveling system and the heavy focus on grinding. And in the new expansion, all of that is sort of gone. You can just do the story missions, your personal story missions, and level up through that. So all you have now is narrative. And it makes the entire game so much more enjoyable. So I decided to buy a month of subscription. Because if you do that, you get the expansion pack for free. And I didn't get charged by BioWare, so thank you for that.
Whoa, awesome.
Yeah, I don't know why that happened, but yeah, I've been having a great time. The stories are so good, man. I decided to make a new character. I'm playing a Sith Inquisitor, I believe. And that story is really cool, full of twists and turns and interesting characters. And especially if you're like me, you like to play a light side Sith. It's very interesting because everyone that you meet is really impressed by you being friendly and wanting to help and stuff. And yeah, and the whole story sort of changes into, well, basically you trying to change the way that the Sith and the Empire works from within, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah, that's really cool. I have a bunch of friends from high school who actually played that game a lot, and they tried to get me into it, but I was kind of in my Guild Wars 2 phase at that point.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, I really liked Guild Wars. The first one, I liked Guild Wars 2. But I don't know, something about Guild Wars 2 kind of turned me off to MMOs in a good way.
In a good way?
Yeah, because Guild Wars 2, they do that, the whole dynamic event system. And I really liked, I think that way of questing is just fantastic. But I think it wasn't quite there. It wasn't quite advanced enough for it to feel organic.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
So I like Guild Wars 2. I still play it sometimes, but I feel like it was so close to being just this revolutionary way to do questing. So now when I go back to other MMOs, I'm especially turned off by the whole exclamation mark thing on the head,
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. I've heard a lot of good things about the Old Republic.
Yeah, it's pretty good. You should try it because the story bits, they are completely open to anyone who plays, even if you're a free-to-play player. I do have to note that being a free-to-play player is extremely restrictive in a lot of ways, as you would expect with a free-to-play MMO. But in the Old Republic's case, it's especially egregious. But, it's not all that expensive to subscribe and just try it out for a month. I'm having a great time. I heartily recommend it.
I'm considering it. I've been wanting to get back into MMOs. I've tried to get back into Guild Wars 2, but I feel like I'm kind of behind the curve in Guild Wars 2 now.
Did you get the expansion? Heart of Thorns,
No.
I think it's called?
No, I want to. I'm kind of, like we were talking about earlier, I'm kind of waiting for school to end to really like dive into some games that I really want to play.
Yeah.
But yeah, I might try the Old Republic in the meantime.
Yeah. I can heartily recommend it. One thing though, it's another one of those hotkey MMO things where you basically just mash buttons in a specific sequence to kill enemies and stuff.
Yeah.
Which turns me off quite a bit because I didn't like that in World of Warcraft because I tried WildStar when it first came out. And the way WildStar works is you have to actually aim your spells and you have to dodge and stuff. It's a bit like Guild Wars 2, but slightly more involved and action-y, for lack of a better term. So going from that system to the World of Warcraft-like system that the Old Republic has is a bit of a turn-off, really.
Yeah, I mean, the auto-lock thing kind of gets old after a while.
Yeah.
I enjoy it sometimes because you can kind of trance. You can kind of get into a little trance and like just do it and relax, but it's not the most engaging thing. But if the story is as good as you say it is.
Yeah. And it's not just one story, right? Because I believe you've got 8 different classes. Well, essentially you've got 4 different classes, 4 on each side, and the 4 classes on the Republic side are named differently than the ones on the Republic side.
Cool.
But they're pretty much the same, but they all have unique stories, like unique to that specific faction and that specific class within that faction. And it's all pretty well written.
Wow, that's cool.
It is. Did I play something else this week? Yeah, I've been playing a bit more of Assassin's Creed Syndicate. As you heard on last week's podcast, I finished that game and I'm
finished it, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just finishing off all the stuff on the map and stuff. But the cracks are sort of starting to show, sometimes in annoying ways, but mostly in very hilarious ways, because the AI is absolutely dumb as a brick, basically. And it is so terrible. I was having this murder spree in a factory and like the entrance of a factory. I was killing dudes left and right, and just the pedestrians that were walking by didn't seem to notice it until I killed about 10 dudes. And then, I kid you not, some guy with a mustache and a top hat stops, looks at the body and says, "This man has been murdered!" I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
What an apt observation.
As you're killing other people.
Yeah, what gave it away?
Yeah, that's Assassin's Creed. That's another one of the series, like one of the major series of gaming that I never got into, and I bought. Let me check my Steam account here. I have Assassin's Creed 2, Brotherhood Revelations, and Black Flag. I bought all of them with the intention of playing them, but then now with Syndicate coming out and the whole thing with Unity, I see people saying like, "Oh, the cracks are really starting to show," and it turns me off to playing the other ones. So I don't know. I know I'll play Black Flag because I know you said you really liked that game. I had a buddy who said he loved it, so I'm gonna play that one for sure.
Yeah, Black Flag's amazing. I mean, nothing is better than just going about your day on the high seas on your ship while you're sitting behind your computer and just singing along to the lyrics of some sea shanty that your crew is singing. It's hilarious. It's fantastic. It's such a great time.
We were roommates in college actually, and I used to be like going to sleep late at night, and he would have his headphones on playing Black Flag, and I would hear them doing the chants, and I was like, "Hey, can you unplug your headphones?" I like that. I like them. I like those songs.
Yeah, the sea shanties were really good. It's not that the series isn't good anymore, because Syndicate is probably the best Assassin's Creed to date from a mechanical standpoint and from a world building standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
The city is absolutely amazing. It just breathes atmosphere and it just looks beautiful, and it's fantastic to walk around in it. But the problem with the Assassin's Creed franchise now is just the gameplay is starting to feel very, very stale because it hasn't really progressed since 2007.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically the same game under the hood. The tech has progressed, but the gameplay is exactly the same, and that's just not good enough anymore. Especially not in 2015 with Metal Gear Solid here and The Witcher 3 here, both fantastic open world games. It's just,
Yeah, that's a good way to put it in perspective. If you compare like Assassin's Creed to Metal Gear and what was the other one you said?
Witcher.
Oh, Witcher, yeah. Like, that kind of shows you how it's fallen behind a little bit.
Yeah, they really need to go back to the drawing board and just take a look at all the systems in the Assassin's Creed franchise and just rebuild it all from the ground up. It just needs to be rethought completely.
I bet they do after this game.
I don't know, because the game has been getting pretty high reviews all across the board. I've even seen a couple of 8 and 9, and I think I saw a 10 out of 10 somewhere, which I thought was a bit rich. Like, I'm a big fan of Assassin's Creed. I've been a fan since the first game. I bought every single iteration, and I loved every single one of them. But even someone like me who loves the source material, who loves the game, and you know, I even love the modern day story, but even I am getting a bit tired of it now. So I find it really hard to sort of see that people think that this is the best thing ever. I know it's all subjective, but just a lot of stuff just doesn't really work anymore in 2015. And that's the problem with a yearly franchise. They don't get enough time to just create new and exciting stuff because it has to be out in the same yearly window.
And with a game that big, it's like, if you have something that's working, you're going to keep doing it, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you're not going to take a risk when what you have is still selling millions of copies.
Yeah, that's true. I just wish they had a bit of artistic integrity. Just take a step back, you know, let that series have a bit of a breather, and then come back with a fantastic new iteration that will blow everybody off their socks. Alas, that doesn't seem to happen, sadly enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was all I played. So let's move over to you.
Yeah, this entire week, pretty much, I have been playing H1Z1, the Battle Royale mode for it.
Right.
Which is a game I never thought I would buy. I never thought I'd buy H1Z1.
It's basically a DayZ kind of game, right?
I mean, the survival mode it's pretty much a clone. I know that'll probably piss people off, but they're very similar games. I mean, brass tacks, they're very similar games. But the Battle Royale mod, or it's not a mod in that game, it's a featured mode. It's good. It's probably one of the best battle royales I've played. Arma 3 has a battle royale mode, and it's good, but it's not as it's got, you know, performance issues like any Arma game does.
Let's wind back a little bit. Could you explain what the battle royale mode actually is? Because I haven't played it.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. So battle royale. What's the best place to start? So you get a whole bunch of players. It's like, I think it's over 100 for the regular mode, there's 2 modes. You can go to, the regular mode, which is first person and third person. There's a toggle, or hardcore, which is first person only. There's zombies and it turns nighttime. So those are the 2 different ways. But in the mode I've played the most, which is the normal mode, you get, I think it's like 100 something players, in a lobby, and then when the game starts, you all drop into a map, like an airdrop. So you're all on parachutes, you see all the other players around you, you guys drop onto the map, and when you land, it's like a mad scramble to get all the loot you can find. You know, guns, ammo, backpacks, any of that stuff. And within the first, 10 minutes of the round, there's a ton of deaths. A lot of people are killing each other right off the bat. And so, it plays out like that for a little bit, and then after that, there's poison gas on the edges of the map, and in timed intervals, it starts creeping in, and there's a safe zone also marked on the map. So if you're within that safe zone, you know the gas is not going to get you. But the gas starts outside that safe zone. So if you're on the edge of the map, you have to like outrun the gas to get to the safe zone. And then the safe zone keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller until you're pretty much adjacent to each other, which has happened a couple times. It's really fun.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
And then at the end, there's in the regular mode you can have teams of up to 5 people. So either your team can win in that sense, or in hardcore it's all free for all. So if you win in hardcore, you beat every other player. It's an extremely, for me, it's an extremely fun game mode.
It sounds really, really good.
Yeah, it's really tense. Like just the way they create a sense of urgency in it, with the sound design especially. So when the poison starts creeping in, these planes fly over and they also drop bombs on people.
Right.
And so you hear the plane coming. You hear this it's kind of like this weird siren noise when the gas starts creeping in. It's very much like kind of a Hunger Games type thing, you know?
Yeah.
And there's also, there's care packages that the planes drop, and those have a bunch of good loot in them, but, you know, everybody's trying to get them, so there's a lot of combat around them. And it's just, I'd say it rivals DayZ in the level of intensity when you get into combat.
Does it have permadeath? Like if you get shot, it's over for you.
Yep. Yeah, if you're dead, you're dead.
All right. That's cool.
You die and you can stay in the whole round and like talk to your teammates, but you can't see anything, and you can just drop out and start a new match if you want to. So matches, it's weird because they can last 10 seconds to 45 minutes, or I don't know what the time limit is, but it's probably like 45 minutes or something.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that sounds very intriguing.
Yeah, it's really intense. The only downside, the only thing it doesn't really satisfy for me is the whole negotiating aspect of that kind of game. Like in the survival mode, you wouldn't necessarily kill somebody on sight, but in Battle Royale, you certainly do.
Yeah.
So there isn't really that haggling back and forth of situations, which, it's whatever. I mean, it's not really supposed to be a part of the game mode, I guess. So I'm not upset about it, but, I've been playing it constantly. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
Would have been cool if it was even slightly more like the Hunger Games, that you can just happen across other players and you decide to make a pact to take down a group that's nearby. And
the hardcore mode people do that. They team up sometimes.
That's great. See, I like that. I like that. I like that sort of emergent gameplay stuff. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool. The only downside to hardcore, I think, is you can Q snipe really, really easily. So you do get people in teams, which I think it's kind of unavoidable, I guess, until you had more players, I suppose. But I don't know. I don't think it ruins the experience.
Sounds interesting. I'll look into it. Maybe I'll jump on during the week and we'll play a game.
Yeah. It's with other people. It's extremely fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
But yeah, it's good. There's no downtime. You're always trying to get somewhere or trying to get something. Your blood's always pumping. You know, it's great.
Yeah, I like that. I like no downtime.
Yeah.
So, anything else?
I played a little bit of Super Smash Brothers this week, just casually, but
yeah, you have your Wii U now, don't you?
Yeah, and I'm still as bad at Super Smash Brothers as I was when I was a little kid.
Yeah, but I tend to find that you don't really have to be very good at that game, because no matter if you're winning or losing, it's fun anyway.
Yeah. I'm a button masher in fighting games, so I just run around. I've been trying to figure out who works the best with button mashing. I've tried, Samus and Sheik, and I like Sheik.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I used to play with my friends, I would pick Samus every single time because that's the only character I knew how to use. And now that I have a Wii U, I'm like, I'm actually going to learn how to play Super Smash Brothers.
I always chose Link.
Yeah, Link's a good one too.
He's annoying as shit as well.
Yeah. So, yeah, but that's all I've been playing this week. It's pretty much just been H1Z1.
All right. Well, maybe I'll just jump on with you and we'll play a game. All right. Shall we move on to some topics.
Yeah, we should. One of the things that fascinates me most about video games is just the amount of different ways to structure a game, like different game modes. And it's kind of a good segue coming from the whole Battle Royale thing, because Battle Royale it might be the new factor, but I think it's one of my favorite game modes that I've ever played. And I just want to ask you, like, what are there particular kinds of games that really draw you in, or particular maybe mods of games? Because I used to play, I'd say up until recently, most of what I've played in games is mods rather than the base game. Just because I just like the different game modes and the different sets of rules that you gotta work with, and how you gotta work differently with different people, all that stuff. So what are some of the game modes that you like to see in games, or what are some that you like to see modded in games?
I have to preface this with saying that even though I'm mostly a PC gamer, I'm not that big into mods. So I hardly ever play mods, let alone online multiplayer mods. But I am into online multiplayer, and I've been having a great time these past couple of weeks with Destiny. And one of the game modes in that is called Rift, which is sort of capture the flag, but not quite. Mm-hmm. You have two teams, and you start on the opposite sides of the map, as you usually would. And periodically, a spark, like a glowing orb, will spawn in the middle of the map. Okay. And your goal is to capture that, and then go to the other team's base, to a rift that's there, and ignite the rift for massive damage and a lot of points. And I find that whole tug of war feel that you get with that just really, really compelling, and it's a lot of fun. It's high octane. It's full of action. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's kind of a cool twist on Capture the Flag.
It is, yeah. There's a different mode. It's called Control, where you have to hold a specific point on the map for. Well, you've got 3 different points strewn around the map, right? And the more points you hold, the more bonus points you get for each kill.
Okay.
And you are constantly fighting for control of those 3 points. And, the dream is to get all 3 points at once and then get a massive amount of kills and scores because of it. And the fun thing about that one is every point is always heavily contested, and there's always something going on some part of the map. And all the points are far enough away so that help can't really come to you.
Not quite fast enough.
Yeah. I think that is great as well. That's a lot of fun. That is probably my favorite game mode in Destiny. I tend to shy away from stuff like deathmatch and team deathmatch because it's a bit aimless, isn't it? There's no real goal other than kill other people. I like objective-based multiplayer.
That's I feel the same way about deathmatch. I mean, it's fun when I have 10 minutes and I want to not sit there. If I have 10 minutes to kill, I don't want to sit there and be bored. So it's like I'll hop into Counter-Strike and play a deathmatch. But it is what it is. It's kind of one-dimensional, I feel like. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Whatever. Are there any others like that just really stick out in your mind?
Well, I would be amiss if I didn't mention the Assassin's Creed multiplayer. The deathmatch in that is actually really, really cool because the way that online multiplayer is structured is you're on the map of like 7 or what was it, 10 or 12 other people, I believe. Mm-hmm. Might be less than that, but it's somewhere around there. And true to the spirit of the video game, you get a target that you have to kill, and the target is one of the other players. But here's the thing. The map is full of NPCs that look like your actual real player opponents. So you have to carefully watch all of them to see if some of them is acting odd and something, and just have to pick the player out of there and kill them, while at the same time trying to behave like an NPC because somebody else is after you. And the higher you are on the ranking, the more players are after you at the same time.
Oh, so it's like
it's very tense.
Yeah, it's like a bounty or a headhunter type thing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and it's very tense because the moment that one of the people who's hunting you is close by, you start to hear whispers. And the louder the whispers are, the closer he is. It's a fantastic game mode, which is why I think it's a bit shit that Unity had co-op stuff, which I didn't really like, and Syndicate didn't have any multiplayer whatsoever, because that deathmatch it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's like they took out.
That's probably the best multiplayer thing I've ever played.
That's cool. That I like how you're talking about it, and you said like kind of the sound with the whispers and stuff comes in, and that's really what creates the tension.
Yeah, it's a sweaty palms.
I love that. I love that kind of stuff in games.
Yeah, and the multiplayer scene for Black Flag is still quite active.
Yeah, that's good. See, man, there's a lot of games like that where they're kind of old, but they still have like a really loyal and active base, you know?
Yeah.
Like the one that pops into my head is Halo for PC, the first Halo.
Is that still active?
Dude, it's still pretty active.
Awesome.
If I don't know where my disc is, but a disc. I don't know where my disc is, but yeah, you hop on and there was probably like 80 servers going or 80 games going last time I hopped on.
Shit.
So yeah, not all of them were full, but I'd say there's probably, last time I got on, I think there was like 200 people online, which is enough to get into a full game.
Yeah, definitely. Wow.
So, yeah, that's old,
pretty great.
But that game's good. And like, I think it's because Halo had so many good game modes. Do you remember when it first came out and like just how crazy that game was?
Yeah, I never played online multiplayer before that. I was still
really?
quite young when it first came out. Yeah. I wasn't really into PC gaming until I was in my early teens. I had a Super Nintendo before that, so
gotcha.
No way to play PC games and everything like that. But Halo was my first experience with online shooters, and it was amazing.
Yeah, it totally changed the FPS kind of landscape. But
yeah,
they had
it did.
two of my favorite Capture the Flag. I mean, everybody loves Capture the Flag in Halo, but King of the Hill in Halo was one of my favorite all-time game modes. It is so fun because it's just time-based. Whoever's the most time in the circle, wins. And I don't know, I felt like I was pretty good at it. Maybe that's why I liked it. But it was just so fun. It was like constant chaos. And there were times where you'd get in the ring and you get blown up immediately. And there's other times where you would get in the ring and be there for a minute straight. And you'd be the longer you were in there, the more nervous you are, to lose it. And then you'd get into like these competitions with people who are like within 2 seconds of you. And you're both like trying to fight right up to the last minute. It was awesome. I loved that game mode.
Halo was absolutely fantastic. The amount of hours I wasted playing Team Deathmatch on Blood Gulch, it's just...
Oh, yeah. I could probably sketch Blood Gulch having not played it for like 2 years.
Yeah. We had this, we used to have LAN parties with the original Xbox at my friend's place where you just hook up two Xboxes and just play against each other.
What was that called? System Link. There you go.
Yeah, that was the one. You had like the smallest map in Halo. It was just like a room or something with a couple of portals that will warp you to the other side of the room. The name escapes me. But we made a custom game mode because you could do that in the first Halo. And everybody was invisible. And the only weapon that was allowed was a rocket launcher. So it didn't really become a game of skill. It wasn't a game of skill anymore. It was just who can pull the trigger the fastest. That was great. I love that.
Yeah. Was it? I'm trying to think. Was it Battle Creek?
No. It was all indoors. Now I have to
I know which one you're talking about. I'm looking it up too. Wizard.
Yeah, Wizard. Let's go with that one. Yes, yep. Wizard.
All right, it was Wizard.
Yeah,
everybody.
It was Wizard. It was Wizard.
Yeah, that was a great map because
it was.
You could run around with a flamethrower and just destroy people. I remember I'd run around with a flamethrower and I would stand on the invisibility cloak thing.
Oh, right,
I just grab that and then I'd camp around the invisibility until somebody came and then light them on fire and then wait for the next one to come up and jump back up there and get it.
Rocket launchers, man, I'm telling you. That level, everybody invisible, rocket launchers as the only gun. Fantastic.
I'm so bad at rocket launchers. I was terrible with rocket launchers in Halo.
Yeah, but it wasn't a game of skill on that map. It was just who pulled the trigger the fastest.
Yeah, it was.
Skill had nothing to do with it.
Oh man!
And chances were that if you shot at somebody, because you could only really see somebody when they were smack dab in front of you. So if you shot them with the rocket launcher, you'd blow up yourself in the process.
I know, right?
It was hilarious that. Oh man, Halo was so good.
Halo was great. I mean, but besides Halo, which apparently I didn't realize Halo had that great of game modes. I surprised myself.
Didn't you have that Death Ball or something like that? What was it?
Edball? Or
was that in
Edball.
2?
Oddball?
Yeah, that was one.
Oddball was good.
Yeah. Anyway, other games than Destiny. Jesus, Halo.
Man, I started writing down modes that I like while we were talking, and the list is pretty long. I think my favorite ones of all time, if I gotta pick from this list, are like competitive tower defense style maps. Have you played any of those?
I don't think so. Have you got an example?
There was in Battle for Middle-earth 2, which is a game I only played mods for. There was
I played that.
Yeah, it was the mods were great. There was a competitive tower defense map, and you had 4 players, and each player, it was a free for all. And each player just had to make it through the waves. But if one player lost, like they got kicked out, and it was then 3 players versus each other for who could last the longest. And then there was another version of it where you could actually send the units. There was a version of this in Warcraft 3 too. You could send units to the other players, and you got money from killing the creeps. So you get you make it through this wave really fast, and that means you can start sending harder creeps to the other people.
Right.
And sometimes, I mean, there were modes where it was 2v2, there was like 3v3 or free for all. I love that kind of stuff. And what was the other one? There was another I can't remember what it was, but it was really cooperative. Battle for Middle-earth mod where you guys, everybody had heroes and you were in this pit, and the AI would just keep spawning in hordes of enemies, and you'd have to, kill them all without dying. I guess that whole, anything that gets people to collaborate in some way, even if it's against each other, I really like that kind of thing. Yeah,
I get what you mean. It's one of the reasons why I like Heroes of the Storm so much.
Yeah.
I think in terms of hours played, I think Heroes of the Storm is at the top there, apart from, well, maybe it's surpassed Assassin's Creed 3 for me, because I played that game for more than 300 hours, but I think I think that Heroes of the Storm is well above that by now.
Yeah, you're probably over 300 in that, but
just it's that game's very easy to just lose entire days to if you get into that groove,
Oh yeah, for sure. But I think whenever you get people who are like actually cooperating together, it's just a really cool thing. Like just to get strangers who, even if you know them online, they're still kind of strangers, but you're all working together towards this one goal. I get that from Battle Royale. I get it from DayZ. I get it from these tower defense games. What's another game we play? Counter-Strike. Any structured competition type game, I love, because it's like you come together with these other people, and it's like it doesn't matter what they're actually like because you're all working towards the same thing. Yeah, and it's just, I don't know. It's kind of a cool experience to work with other people towards that one thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Which, and that is also why I'm not really all that fond of team deathmatch stuff, because apart from the whole thing that you are, in fact, on a team, nobody's really playing together. People treat it like a regular deathmatch.
Yeah.
But as soon as you have some sort of objective that you have to work towards, you see that people band together. And that makes everything just so much more fun.
Yeah, I think it's really fun in Counter-Strike Deathmatch if you get like, I do this a lot. I get a good hold of A site in Dust 2, and then I'll just talk in like the all chat and be like, hey, everybody on Terrace, don't let them get A site. And then everybody will just come to A site with ops and like try to hold it as long as we can. It just makes it a little more fun, gives it a little more something.
That's a lot of fun. It's pretty hard to do multiplayer right. But when it's good, it is very good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Especially, I mean, it's just great when I think the best feeling is when you feel like you fulfilled your role. If you save like a teammate in something, like you're fulfilling your role on the team.
Yeah.
And it's a good feeling.
Or you just happen to be in like the same zone as another team member who's in trouble, and you arrive just in time to help him out and overcome the enemy there. That's great.
I think it's just way more rewarding to me than a single player experience. But I get that feeling too from competitive games. Like if I beat somebody, I'm like, yeah, I did my job.
Yeah,
I fulfilled my goal to myself. Just looking over my list again. Oh, one I wanted to talk about was the Counter-Strike Source gun game mod. Did you ever play that?
I've never played Counter-Strike in my life.
Oh, really? I thought you had played Source, or Global Offensive.
Nope.
Interesting. Okay. Well, in Counter-Strike, there used to be this mod called Gun Game, and you would all start off either on the high end or the low end of the gun spectrum. So you'd either start off with the worst weapon or the best weapon.
Right.
So say, I think in the one I used to play, we started off with the worst. So we'd all start off with Glocks, and then you would just, every time you got a kill, you got a new gun. And there was no score because it was still a mod back then. Like, there was individual scores, but there was no real objective to play to. It was just kind of a fun thing that we all did. And I have a lot of good memories playing that. Just crazy stuff that happens, you know, like crazy shots that happen, that kind of thing.
Interesting.
But yeah, I think that about covers it for me. It's just like anything that encourages players to kind of negotiate together and collaborate with each other towards something. Yeah. I think that's my favorite.
I think I have to mention one more game mode that is pretty special. We have talked about this one on a podcast before, and that is the multiplayer mode you have in one of the older Splinter Cell games, where one team is playing like special ops people who basically play it like a first-person shooter, and the other side is playing the spies who play it like, well, a Splinter Cell game. And you have to fight against each other. And it's very asymmetrical. Like, one has gadgets and they have to make use of the shadows and all that. And the other ones have flashlights to look for the spies and kill them. And that was really tense as well, because as a soldier, you always have the feeling that somebody is watching you, and that at any moment somebody could walk up behind you and just slice your throat open.
Yeah.
And as a spy, you'll always be on the edge of your seat because you're trying to be as silent as possible and trying to predict where the flashlight is going to be shown at, right? That is great. That was a fantastic multiplayer mode. I think we're supposed to play that with the four of us, but we forgot.
Yeah, I remember hearing something about that, and I was like, oh, I guess we're not doing that.
I really need to play that again because that was just fantastic. I hope the servers are still online because that game is quite old now. Mm-hmm. Yeah?
Yeah.
I think that was basically it. These are a few of my favorite things. So with the advent of early access games, you know, games being available for purchase and for play when they're still quite early in development, I was wondering, is it a good idea to make your fans part of the process of the development? Because a lot of those developers, they ask for feedback while they are making the game. And I don't know, is it detrimental to the development process to get your fans in on it, as it were?
Well, what kind of development are we talking? Are we talking about like from the ground up? They're all the way through early alpha into beta and then release, or do you mean like?
Well, that's what usually happens with early access. I mean, every time that you go to a game on the Steam store that is in early access, you see like a message on top, like, yeah, we are still making the game and we want to hear from you. We want your feedback. And I'm not entirely sure that is something that you want for the simple reason that, and we're going to phrase this without sounding disrespectful. People don't know what they want, basically.
Yeah,
and we as gamers, we are an indecisive bunch.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's sort of detrimental to the process to get your fans involved, directly involved in making your game.
Yeah. I for me, man, letting the fans into an open barring the paywall or something, letting fans into like an open access early alpha is resounding no. Do not do. I can't think of a way to better give your game a bad reputation.
Yeah.
Without doing something diabolical,
But the way that you just sounded makes me think that you've witnessed something like this go horribly awry.
Well,
do elaborate.
I'll give you two examples of one that I don't think was done right. Maybe not out of the developer's intentions, but it was not done right, and then one that was done right. So the one that was done right, Guild Wars 2. They had the game in develop. Okay, I got to remember the timeline. The expansion, Eye of the North, came out in 2007, I think, for the original first Guild Wars game. And then they went dark for a very long time about Guild Wars 2, to the point where people thought that game was, it was gone. It was done. And then all of a sudden, I think in 2012, was it 2012? I can't remember the timeline. Forgive me for that. But the developers came out and they showed all this huge progress they had made on the game, and people got extremely pumped. And then as development went forward and they got further into beta, they did open beta weekends where players would come in, stress test, test bugs, that kind of thing. And then they would close it off again and work on them for another few months. And then another beta weekend. I think they did 3 beta weekends. And then the game came out and a lot of those issues got resolved from the beta weekends and everyone was pretty much happy. The bad example is DayZ.
I knew it.
Because, man, that whole thing is just a kind of a freak show. I think they did it with good intentions. But
I think the problem with DayZ was that they opened it up to the public way too early in development.
Yes. The development at the beginning, I bought it, oh God, a couple months after it came out. Like it released on early access on Steam. And the game was bare bones at that point. And it was still fun. I enjoyed playing, DayZ at the beginning, but development was pretty slow up until I'd say like the last 6 months, maybe 8 months. Development was not necessarily slow, but it was just like a lot of under the hood stuff, adding content. I know they're trying to get out their new renderer right now. The frames are really bad in the game. There's desync issues, but over the past year and a half, they've been working on that kind of thing. But there seems to be a group of people who played the game when it first came out and maybe a couple months after, saw the problems, and then they're coming back now and they're seeing the same desync problems, same frame issues, and they jump to the conclusion that nothing has been done. It's not the case. There's been a ton of content added, and the developers have been very open. They're saying, look, we're adding content right now. The performance is not going to be good. It annoys me when people jump into a game at a very early stage and then judge it at that very early stage. And I know I voiced this to you guys. I just don't think it's right to judge a game until development has stopped. So either it releases or they stop, like it's a failed project. When it releases, if it's still bad, if there's still bad frames, there's still desync, then call it a bad game then. But you're kind of cutting it off at the knees.
Yeah, we've had this conversation before, and I maintain what I said when we had this conversation last. You only get one release on Steam. That's it. Like the moment you put it up for sale, the moment you're charging money for it is the moment that you should get feedback or critique in any way, shape or form. Because if you're asking money for a product, no matter if you put a disclaimer at the front saying like this is still in development, still you are selling a product. And if people are unhappy with that product, you are going to hear it, no matter what stage the game is in.
Because they paid for that, right? I mean,
exactly.
So I'm not saying that people shouldn't bash on DayZ because you paid for the right to do that. I just don't agree with it. But I totally get that, and I think that's why it was that early access launch of DayZ was not. I don't want to call it a complete failure because the game does have a pretty big user base. But it was it did not do anything to draw in new players, and it pissed them off in the process.
Yeah, and because of the state that the game is in now, people who are not who have not bought the game now are not willing to buy the game because of all the negativity coming out of the community. Because the game is still unfinished.
There's still there's threads that pop up on the DayZ subreddit almost on a daily basis. That people are saying, should I buy DayZ? And it's like, dude, if you haven't bought it yet, no, wait till it's released. At least wait till beta. Like, I don't know why you would come in and ask now. When it's still kind of in the heat of alpha.
Yeah. I never hear positive things coming from that community.
No.
I don't know where I read that. I think it was on Reddit. Somebody said like, DayZ is the game that is in such a shit state that even Rocket said, fuck it, I'm gone.
Well, there's a lot of misinformation, I think, flying around about the whole Rocket thing, because he did, from the second DayZ started, he said he was going to leave, at some point. Like when he thought the vision of the game was where he wanted it to be, he was going to leave, and that's what he did. And I think people kind of blew it out of proportion, but I think it's letting fans into a game that early, I think, is like letting movie fans help out on a movie set. It's like, no, dude, let the professionals do what they're going to do. If it's a bad movie, it's a bad movie. If it's not, it's not. But the fan input is not gonna.
Yeah, because the thing is, with a lot of the people playing DayZ or any other early access game is don't ask them for feedback. Don't ask them for input on how to make your game, because most of those people are not game designers.
Yeah. You can't
and
ask
because
them.
of the volume of people coming in, you get like an insane range of different and sometimes opposing opinions.
Yeah.
So it becomes really hard to figure out what it is that the community wants from your game.
Yeah, it is, and you get people who, I think there's a lot of people who underestimate the amount of time it takes to implement things into games. For example, in DayZ, a big thing that I've seen people talk about is horses and bikes. They're saying, we have cars. Why don't we just add horses and bikes? Like, it's that easy. Just, but it's like the developers have come out multiple times and said, I don't know enough about development, but I guess the architecture for a car is different than a bike. So in order to make bikes in the game, they have to start building a bike from the ground up. It's not like you can just put a bike skin on a car and start playing. So I think it's a lot of those kind of suggestions where when the developers say, well, we can't necessarily do that right now, people think, why can't you do something that easy, But it's not the same thing. Does that make sense?
Of course it's easy. I mean, a bike's got 2 wheels, a car's got 4 wheels, or half the code.
Yeah,
easy.
Just delete half of it, right?
Bob's your own call.
Yeah, I don't know. I've defended DayZ quite a bit online, and people call me fanboy for it all the time, but if it's a bad game when it releases, I will have no problem going back on my stance and say it's a bad game, but just give it the benefit of the doubt. Let the guys, let the developers finish their job and then judge their job after that. And early access to me just invites so much scrutiny over something that isn't ready to be scrutinized. Yeah,
I'm of a different opinion there. You're charging money for something. If it's not working correctly,
I'm not arguing the right. If you paid for it, you have the right to scrutinize it. I'm criticizing the developers for saying, "Hey, if you're not ready for scrutiny, don't open your game up to scrutiny," which would seem like a no-brainer to me. And that's not to knock the day. It is a little bit, but I like the DayZ devs. I think they at least appear like they're very hardworking and they have genuine intentions for the game to be very good. But
passionate people, all of them.
Yeah, they seem extremely passionate, and that's why I get kind of defensive of it. I guess is because just let them do it. But I don't know. I'm going to get off on a rant. But I think they
go on.
I think they would have been better served doing kind of the Guild Wars 2 type of model where they say, "Hey, come play it, test all this stuff for us for a week, and then in 3 months when we have a significant amount of content to show you guys based on the last test, we'll show it to you."
Yeah, that would have been the better choice.
Yeah, so I don't know. I can't really even think of a good way to have fans be a part of the early development.
It's just the volume, the volume of people coming into the early access programs. It's impossible to pick out the good ideas from the bad. And even if you pick out an idea, you don't know if that's an idea that the majority of people want, or you take on all the ideas that you read and elongate the development or extend the development even longer because you want to implement everything. And as a result of that, the final product will feel unfocused.
Mm-hmm. I think that happened with DayZ for a while too. They got a lot of money from the early sales. And so they were like, hey, we have all this money. Now we can expand the project. But that expands the project. So now you're telling the fans who have been waiting so long for all this stuff, they're saying, hey, now that we got your money, we're going to make this game bigger and it's going to take longer and you guys are going to have to wait more. And I don't know. I don't think it was handled very well. I don't necessarily think they handle PR the best. But I don't know. That's my rant on DayZ. Judge it when it's finished. Just judge it when it's finished and stop releasing your games before they look like real games.
That concludes another exciting episode of the Select Characters podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Sam and Enrique will be back here next week, so we'll be here with the four of us. In the meantime, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email at selectcharacters@gmail.com with your topic suggestions, questions, or whatever you really like. You can also follow us on YouTube and on Twitter and on Facebook. More links in the description. And if you're listening to this podcast via iTunes, do us a favor and give us a 5-star review so we rise up higher in the rankings and get more people in to join the party. Anyway, we'll see you again next week. Goodbye.